Bahamas Customs, Immigration and Allied Workers Union accusing the Director of Labor of conflict of interest. National Insurance Board Minister gives unemployment assistance figures, and a woman behind bars for impersonating a lawyer. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lissy Bastian. It's Tuesday, February 16th. It's good having you with us. Topping news tonight, Bahamas Customs, Immigration and Allied Workers Union filing a trade dispute with the Ministry of Labor last month, and that dispute is in reference to the appointment of a new assistant director at the Department of Immigration. Union President Sloan Smith says the appointment of the assistant director breaches the industrial agreement, as he says, based on the agreement, the union should have been made aware of any job openings, giving immigration officers who qualify for the job the opportunity to apply. The union president also claims that the process of the appointment was not followed by neither the Department of Immigration or the Department of Public Service, as due process was not given to any potential officer in the service, disadvantaging potential candidates for the position. Now, both the union and officials from the Ministry of Immigration were expected to meet this morning with the Director of Labor, John Pender, to resolve that trade dispute. However, that did not happen, as Mr. Smith claims there is a conflict of interest.
What we discovered just yesterday evening, the Director of Labor, who is responsible for that conciliation process, our colleagues in the bargaining unit called us, who live in the Foxhill constituency, and what do we have happening? Individuals are going from door to door, representing John Pinder, who happens to be the Director of Labor, who is said to be, and they're campaigning on his behalf because he is touted to be, based on that information, the candidate for the Free National Movement in the upcoming general election. Now, we were scheduled to go to this meeting this morning. Having heard that, the question arises, could we ever get any just due here? Because it is the government who brought this individual in against the industrial agreement and breach of the industrial agreement. The Director of Labor should be an impartial person. He now, by virtue of our understanding, he is involved in the political fray. So how can we go to sit with him and his people and hope that a process will work? It cannot work.
Mr. Smith contends that when it comes to public servants, in the case of the Labor Director, the general audit speaks to such persons being involved in anything political, adding that the office of any public servant ought to be objective. Jcn's news team, following these claims, reached out to the Labor Director, who denied being a candidate for the FNM in the upcoming general elections. And while he says he'd love to be given the chance to run in the Foxwoods constituency, added that if he were a candidate, it would have nothing to do with his capacity as Director of Labor.
I run for the Foxwoods constituency? Really? News to me? That's why I just get a nomination to run for Foxwoods. What I have to do with my capacity. In law, you judge based on law and policy and procedure. And the only thing the Director of Labor can do if I conciliate a case is to make a recommendation. I can't even, not even the tribunal could actually enforce their ruling. I only can make a recommendation. That's the only thing my job, and my job is only to make a recommendation. Any conciliator from the Department of Labor job is just make a recommendation as to which party you think, is heading in the right direction or is in violation. So if he claimed that there's a violation of the industrial agreement, and I see a violation, as a state to the government side, you are in violation of these people's industrial agreement. So I don't know if I run for Fox or what I don't know what happens. I have to do the conciliation matter.
Mr. Pinder adds that if it were the case that he was nominated as a candidate in the FNM, and if it was a concern, he would gladly withdraw from the case and assign it to someone else. Meantime, the union president is calling on the Prime Minister to intervene.
We call on the Honorable Prime Minister, who I believe can solve anything. He has that authority, he has that power, and that office carries that gravitas to address any issue, including this issue. But to go and sit down at Labor knowing full well this individual cannot be impartial, we call on the Prime Minister himself to meet with the union, its lawyers, Mr. Obi Ferguson, who's president of the Trade Union Congress, and we can conclude this. And really the person's Prime Minister can bring whom he wishes into that room. He's the Prime Minister. But we know if we sit with him, we can conclude this amicably and cause that this matter be resolved once and for all.
In other labor news, negotiations for a new industrial agreement between the Bahamas Union of Teachers, BUT, and the government are set to begin soon, as they have been on pause due to the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the BUT president, Belinda Wilson, the union submitted a proposal to the government on June 20th, 2018, and 1 year later, June 2019, negotiations had begun. However, as a result of the first COVID-19 positive case being found in March of 2020, negotiations were discontinued.
The new proposal we are seeking to improve the terms and conditions of service for all of our members. We want to ensure that there's a safe learning environment, especially now that we have the COVID-19 pandemic. We are also looking at staff movement or reassignment of teachers, teachers' aides, librarians, guidance counselors. We want to strengthen policies that deals with the duties of teachers and teachers' aides and all of our members, and also their supervision, or what we call observation and evaluation.
Mrs. Wilson added that their proposal also addresses the availability of information technology in all of the schools in the Bahamas. She says that they also would like some teachers to receive a hardship allowance, especially those working on the Family Islands.
If we have a teacher who is teaching, let's say in Mars Island or a remote island or on one of our keys, and even now you have Abaco impacted and other islands where commercial banks would have ceased their operations. So we would have teachers on a monthly basis in various islands who would have to get on a plane to come to New Providence in order for them to access their salaries. So their areas is hardship.
According to the union president, the union is currently waiting on confirmation from the Ministry of Education for a set date to continue negotiations. As the COVID-19 pandemic continues to rage on and thousands of Bahamians are still without a job, the minister with responsibility for the National Insurance Board, Brent O'Rourke, breaking out the figures on how much the government has paid out in unemployment benefits. Here's Laurencia Smith with more details on those numbers.
National Insurance Board Minister Brent O'Rourke telling reporters outside of Cabinet this morning, as of this month, the board will pay out close to $230 million in unemployment assistance.
When we look at the entire income support and unemployment assistance program, some $219 million have already been spent. And that does not include an additional $10 million that will come in the month of February. So I could easily say that roughly, in terms of income support alone, Bahamians have benefited to some degree nearly $230 million.
11 months into the pandemic, more than 40% of the Bahamian labor force is still out of work. Thousands have been relying on NIB for some assistance, which include the support of self-employed individuals, Bahamians in the hospitality sector, and the Unemployment Extension Program, which has seen several extensions. Now there are concerns as what will happen next when the assistance come to an end.
That is a concern. We anticipate that industries will be coming back. We understand that they are coming back slowly, but I think the Bahamian public also appreciate that the government has extended income support much longer than even we believe were possible.
The minister contains that during the global pandemic, this is the biggest payout NIB has made in its 40-year history. I'm Laurencia Smith for Jcn News.
In news from the courts, a woman who impersonated a lawyer at the Bahamas Department of Corrections was arraigned today at Magistrates Court. 25-year-old Wernica Russell of Jcn Boulevard was escorted into the courthouse by officers of the Drug Enforcement Unit to stand before Deputy Chief Magistrate Andrew Forbes. Russell had a total of 40 counts of fraud and drug-related charges. 12 counts of possession of false documents, 12 counts of uttering a forged document, and 12 counts of pretending to be an attorney, 2 counts of possession of dangerous drugs with intent to supply, and 1 count of taking a prohibited device into the prison. The facts are that on February 12, 2021, Russell was arrested at the prison for presenting a fake Bahamas Bar Association ID bearing the name Ashley Evans. She was transported to the Elizabeth Estates Police Station, where an officer found 2.6 pounds of marijuana taped to her abdomen. When Russell's home was searched, more drugs were found, weighing in at 1.6 pounds. As it relates to the fraud, between September 2020 and February 2021, Russell impersonated a lawyer, during which time she brought cell phones, which is classified as prohibited device. Russell pleaded guilty to all of the charges. She told the courts that she had fallen on hard times as she's a nail technician by trade. She was promised $3,000 and she needed the funds to take care of her son. Before handing down his ruling, the Deputy Chief Magistrate scolded the defendant on her actions, telling her that her choices were poor in judgment and she will have to face the consequences of her actions. Russell will serve 15 months for all the charges. You're watching JCN News. When we return, the Free National Movement ratifying more candidates, 25,000 voters expected to register for the next general election, and the Chinese community donating a truckload of food. Stay with us.